Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video, and I'm going to talk about some things that I would like to be shown at this year's San Diego Comic-Con. So this is kind of going to be like a series of videos that I'm doing. I'm going to do at least 4 of these, where I pick a toy company and then just show like my top 3 things that I would like to be shown from that toy company at this year's Comic-Con. And this is, I do kind of dream videos where I kind of like my all-time, what I would love to see from these studios or from these companies. This is going to be somewhat like that, but also somewhat like a prediction video. It's going to be a combine of the two. I'm going to be talking about figures that I would, of course, love to be shown myself, but also ones that I think are possible to be shown. Not going to be just things that are way out there. If there are any kind of, if there's like something I'm looking forward to and they hinted at it some way, then they'll make it on the list for sure, that type of thing. So it's kind of a combined thing of what I would like to be shown and what I think will be shown, kind of all combined into one. So that's what I'm kind of doing here. So I'm going to be doing at least 4 of these. One for Sideshow, one for Hot Toys, one for the Studio Series, which is Transformers, and then one for Marvel Legends. And I might do some others if I can think of any other kind of companies that I definitely like to talk about. But those are the 4 that I'm definitely going to do. And here we're doing Sideshow Collectibles. So yeah, so I don't buy a ton of just Sideshow stuff themselves. I've bought some in the past for sure. Each year I buy at least one thing from Sideshow, but I don't buy an incredible amount from them. So putting this list together was a little difficult for me because obviously, there's things that would be cool to be shown, but I don't think I get it. And some of that is this, but all of this I think would be really cool to be shown. So let's get started with my number 3 choice, which would have to be General Grievous. Not another figure from him, but a statue. They've made like 2 statues in the past. One is just him standing, kind of walking forward, which was a very old statue from them. Definitely needed an update, I think. Not something that is up to the standards that they have today. And then they did this one fighting, posing statue between General Grievous and Shakti, which I think is extremely cool. I absolutely love it, to be honest, but it definitely is lacking some of that detail that I think that they've improved on since this statue. So the 2 General Grievous statues that they've made are very old at this point. I think it would definitely be time for another one. I even think that this one with him versus Shakti is not in their typical premium format scale even either. So I definitely think it would be time to get a new Grievous statue. I think it would be extremely cool. The Grievous figure that they did is probably the best product I've ever seen them do that I own. I absolutely love it. It really blew my mind. It's kind of like Hot Toys level, I would say. I think that with Sideshow you can definitely tell that there's a big difference between Sideshow products and Hot Toys products when it comes to their figures. But with this General Grievous figure, this is the one exception. I actually think that it's as good as a Hot Toys figure would be of him, I think. So personally, I absolutely love that figure. One of my favorite in the collection. So I know that they can make a great looking General Grievous, and so I think that translating that into a statue with a fantastic pose would be something very cool and very special. General Grievous is such a dynamic character in his movements. As a character, he's not super dynamic, but I mean in his fighting style, he's very dynamic, and therefore I think that they could put together something very cool with an extremely neat pose. So I definitely like to see that. Again, there's been no hint of this happening, but I think it's something that should happen, and probably within the next, I'd say, 5 years it'll probably happen, but I would certainly love to see it happen at this year's Comic-Con. Number 2, they've been doing a lot of 1/6 scale figures for Marvel as of late. They used to be big on Star Wars, and they're kind of cutting back on that and going more with Marvel, which I think is extremely smart, because back when they were doing Star Wars, Hot Toys was not doing Star Wars figures, or if they did, it was like the occasional DX Luke, which, they did every now and then. So Sideshow was kind of had the market on 1/6 scale movie Star Wars figures, but then they kind of lost that when Hot Toys took over and started making them regularly. But one thing that Hot Toys does not make are comic versions of Marvel figures. So I think this is a nice spot that they can kind of squeeze into, that they'll be kind of the only people on the market doing for the most part. So I think it's quite smart. They've done a lot of heroes, but they're starting to get into the villains with Red Skull and Magneto, as you can see there on the far sides, which look very cool in my opinion. I absolutely love them. So I think that they could do some others, some really just having a nice classic Marvel comic villain line would be extremely cool. So the other three that I think that they should do are Green Goblin, Loki, and Doctor Doom. The Doctor Doom and Green Goblin here are their premium format versions of those characters, but I would love to see a 1/6 scale version of them. This is a line that I'd probably collect had it if it was a more reasonable price. These really retail for about the same price as Hot Toys, and again, like I said, with the exception of General Grievous, when it comes to their 1/6 scale figures, they're far behind the quality of Hot Toys, and therefore they should not be charging the same price as Hot Toys, especially since I think nowadays Hot Toys have become too expensive, even more expensive than they're worth. So at this point, I think that the Sideshow ones are really ridiculously priced, and therefore I don't actually purchase them. So although the Red Skull one and the Magneto one have tempted me in the past, because of their price point, I'm not going to purchase them. So I doubt I'd get Doctor Doom, Green Goblin, or Loki, but I would certainly love to see them. I think it would be a really cool line. Yeah, had these been like a little bit under $200, if these were like $190, $180 figures, which I think are the price that Sideshow figures should run, assuming they don't come with anything massive, then I think that these would definitely be worth it. But considering they're like $240, which is the same price as Hot Toys, they're not worth it for me personally. But nonetheless, I think that they look really cool and can definitely be these three new Marvel villains are the absolute perfect ones for them to do, because they seem to be sticking with very classic characters when it comes to this line. So I wouldn't do anything too obscure. And the only other kind of classic villain that I can think of, which would fit with these five, I think, would be like Abomination. But he's obviously too big for them to do and too complicated. It would be a very expensive figure and everything like that, but these would fit just perfectly in that line, and I'd certainly love to see them done. And then my number one choice is going to be from the J. Scott Campbell line, his Fairytale Fantasy collection. This is something that I think could absolutely be shown at this year's Comic-Con. If you don't know, this is kind of a line based on a artist, J. Scott Campbell, who did a line of Fairytale Fantasies, basically. So your classic kind of fairy tale type of characters, but in more of a pinup style. They're quite cool. He also, is a Marvel artist as well, a Marvel Comics artist, and I did purchase the Black Cat statue that they made from his line. And now with this line, they did Little Mermaid, Tinkerbell, and Alice. Alice is coming out within the next month or two. I have Little Mermaid and Tinkerbell already. Alice I've got on pre-order, so I've got the whole line already. I'd love to see them continue the line, though, which they certainly could do. Now, the two photos that I have at the bottom right are the kind of photos that lead me to believe that they're going to continue the line, because the Cinderella photo there at the very bottom right was actually shown in the Sideshow's video where they were showcasing all of the whole collection, Alice, Tinkerbell, and Little Mermaid. They flashed that picture of Cinderella at the end as a little tease, I assume, as to the next statue. And then there's also the one right next to that Cinderella photo, which is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. That is on J. Scott Campbell's website. He sells prints, and he has a lot of these prints with the full backgrounds, but then he also made a couple that are just kind of altered ones to fit with your statues, which don't really have much of background. It more has just the design in the background, and he did it for, of course, the three that they already did, Little Mermaid, Tinkerbell, and Alice. However, he also did one for Beauty and the Beast, and it's called a statue design, and there is no Beauty and the Beast statue from him made by any company at the moment. So I'm thinking that if they are going to continue it, which they've kind of teased twice now, one tease was by J. Scott Campbell and one tease was by Sideshow, I think Cinderella and Belle would be the next two that they would do. But the three at the top here are the ones that I'd like to see most. Getting kind of Jasmine from Aladdin, type of design would be really cool. I absolutely, that pose is really great, and I think that it leads itself to a statue. Having her sitting, it's much easier to do characters that are kind of sitting, which is why I think Alice and Little Mermaid were done. And I think that it just kind of really fits a statue design. Getting Snow White would be very cool as well. Not 100% sure what they could do with her base. It would probably be pretty plain base-wise, but I think that the actual positioning of the figure would be really neat. And then the last one would be Cinderella, which my favorite design of Cinderella that he's done is this one where she's running down the stairs as her dress is being transformed back, which it seems like they're taking that design of the dress being transformed back and just putting it with a different pose, because as you can see, she's obviously in a very different design with the one that Sideshow teased us. So I'll be very interested in to see this line continue. Again, like there's two teases of it, so I think that there's definitely a precedent for this line to continue. However, my only concern about it is that they haven't shown anything new for this line in like a year. The only thing that they showed new was a repaint of the Little Mermaid statue with the red fin and the blonde hair, which is neat, but they haven't shown anything of a new design yet in like over a year. So I'm a little concerned about that, but I think that if they were going to show it, this would be the time. I believe that they debuted this line at 2017's Comic-Con, so I would certainly love to see at least one new statue be shown, even if it's just in the prototype stage, just so that I know that they're continuing the line, because I'm a big fan of this line personally, and for the most part, I'll buy just about any one that they do, assuming that they don't do one that's a crazy price, or they don't do one that I'm just really not interested in. But for the most part, I really love all his designs. They're very neat. So I think that there's not many that I wouldn't buy. But of course, the three that I would love to buy is Jasmine, Snow White, and Cinderella. I think those would be the three coolest ones that they could do. So that's my number one choice, and something that I do believe could definitely be shown would be the Fairytale Fantasy line to continue. Number two would be more Marvel villains in their 1/6 scale line for the Marvel figures. And then number three would be a new statue for General Grievous. So those are my top three choices for what could be shown and what I'm hoping is shown from Sideshow Collectibles at this year's San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Let me know what you guys think of my choices personally, and I'd love to hear your guys' choices as well. And thanks so much for watching.